Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fly Like an Eagle podcast. This is show number 19. We are in week number 2 of August, which means the first preseason game of the NFL year, 2024. We are here, kind of. I mean, the preseason doesn't mean much to either of us, honestly, but we got some news earlier today that the starters will be playing at least a quarter of the first preseason game. So that is very interesting. Not only that, Nick Foles, Eagles legend, decides to retire, decides to hang up the cleats, and he will be retired officially by the Philadelphia Eagles. The first Monday night game of the year after Brazil, so week 2, 8:15 on ESPN. I will be there. That's not a game I was actually thinking about going to until this actually happened, but I have to be there for him because I am the biggest Nick Foles fan on the face of the earth. So I absolutely have to be there. I'll probably do something with the show inside the stadium. Maybe I'll take some footage or whatever, but nor here nor there. I will be there, and that is very exciting. He's finally
Wait, when is he retiring? I missed the game or week that you said.
So he retired from the NFL. He's going to retire with the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football Week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow, they already announced that.
Yep,
That's
they announced
interesting.
it.
That
Now
quick.
the next step with
Very
him
cool.
will be the jersey retirement ceremony, whenever that may be, because it's inevitably going to get retired. So I'm very happy about that. It's a long time coming, and you know, it's
Well, like they would probably
fun
do they probably do the Eagles Hall of Fame and retire it at the
for
same
sure.
time, right? Maybe?
Yep, for sure. I mean, they
Yeah.
already soft retired the number 9. Nobody's ever going to wear it again. It's just a matter of time. So and I'm definitely happy about it because a
They're
guy
running out
I've
of
never I've
they're
never
running out of
seen a
numbers.
yeah, I've never seen a guy with so much scrutiny, even after winning the Super Bowl, because they want to say that Carson Wentz had anything to do with it when he really didn't. And I've never seen it in my life before. And the guy just deserves everything he gets. And the first and only first time Philadelphia Eagle to win the Super Bowl as a quarterback. So congrats, Nick Foles, and we will see you up in the rafters one day. But with that said, how you doing, Scotty?
Absolutely. I'm doing well. It kind of like jumped into things. I definitely want to pick up on that Nick Foles topic. But yeah, I'm doing great. We're in the heat of the summer, and it's game day. Of course, I saw the Eagles post that on Instagram, and I'm like,
Mm.
all right. I'm like not really excited, honestly. I didn't even know if the game was last night or tonight a couple days ago. So it's like, I swear to God. And of course I do this podcast with you, and I'm an Eagles stan. But I'm definitely excited. It's also interesting that the starters are going to play now, so that adds more intrigue. We're going to
Mm.
talk about that in detail in a few moments, but just to touch on Nick Foles a little bit, his story is one of a kind. The only thing I can think of that resembles it is like a Kurt Warner, how Kurt Warner was in the league, then out of the league. I think he was like a bagging groceries at like
Mm.
a supermarket. Now Foles never did that. I mean, he became a priest at some point, but that was
Yeah.
later on after his success. But between the 27-2 in 2013, coming in for Mike Vick and playing under Chip Kelly, who that is not who you would think the quarterback for Chip Kelly's system, excelling there. Then he has a decent 2014. Chip trades him away, which is still really weird because like he was so good with your system. I don't know why you would trade him away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he bounces around to St. Louis, Kansas City, then comes back here. And, I'll be the first to admit I definitely doubted him. I'm sure you do remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And he literally took not only Philadelphia, but the world by storm, went on probably the most improbable run, definitely in Philadelphia Eagles history, but probably NFL history, to play a perfect conference championship game and then to beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. Just absolutely insane. Now, of course, he left here. Actually, I'm sorry. The next year, made the playoffs, came in again almost, and did like again had the Foles magic, Big Dick Nick. This guy like took over the city and rightfully deserved after he played like Joe Montana. Like, let's just be honest, in the Super Bowl, where he played like Tom Brady and actually better than Tom Brady in that game. It's such a weird career, obviously, where he was only successful here and like super successful, like the pinnacle. He couldn't have done anything else. I mean, win another one, but we're definitely happy with one. We never had one before. So
Mm.
that's the only mystery about him is how he never excelled anywhere else. Obviously, we don't care. He's an Eagles legend, but just his overall career retrospective, people definitely, they're going to remember the Super Bowl win, and then they're just going to remember, what went wrong? Why wasn't he ever a full-time starter on like a regular basis? But rightfully deserved 11 seasons in the league. I actually watched and reposted his little retirement message speech. It was beautiful, great stuff. The guy is very emotionally intelligent, high character. You could see how people would rally around him. So congratulations to Nick Foles. And I'd like to go to that Falcons game too with you for
Yeah.
sure. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna put it together for sure. It's gonna be me, my boy, Ant, obviously, and I guess you and one other person. We'll definitely get a group together to go. And it's definitely gonna be one of those nights where, I'm not gonna be emotional because, I've been emotional about Nick Foles since like a long time
You
ago,
never know.
since 2013. But at the end of the day, I always believed in him. Even when Carson Wentz went down against the Rams in 2017, it did suck because he was performing at such a high level. But at the back of my mind, I was like, this team is good enough to where you could plug Nick Foles in there, who's proven to win with Philadelphia. And he only has to go 4 games left in the regular season, then go 2 games in the playoffs, then get to the Super Bowl. I didn't think it was impossible. And behold, he did it. So, I mean, it's one of
The
those things.
only thing I'll mention is with the Carson Wentz thing. I don't think you can not give Carson any credit because
I don't.
we went
I don't.
we went 13-3, and we hadn't done that in like 10 years up to that point. So we know it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Well, here's the thing, okay? And I'm sorry talking over you, but here's the thing with the whole Carson Wentz
I
thing. The
talked
reason
over
why
you first. Though.
I don't really give him any credit, and I'm not really sorry about it because time in and time again, Donovan McNabb did what Carson Wentz did in the regular season, and he couldn't win the big game. If you put Carson Wentz in that big game, I'm pretty damn sure that he would not have won that Super Bowl based off of the past experience we've had with Carson Wentz. I just don't think he would have. I don't think he's a winner. I don't think God intended to put him in any position to win. I think Nick Foles' story wrote itself. He's a winner. He's like the Derek Jeter of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's just a guy that can take the big moment and lead you to the promised land. If it weren't for Alshon Jeffery against the Saints in 2018, dropping that ball and landing right into the cornerback's hands, we would go back to back with Nick Foles. So I really
Yeah,
don't want
we
to
know.
hear any. I really don't want to hear any of this nonsense with Carson Wentz setting us up to go to the Super Bowl. When you're in the playoffs, you're either good enough or you're not. Nick Foles was. Carson Wentz was never.
Yeah, we know Carson used God as a crutch, right? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, smiling when he shot deer. Yeah, that's great.
But I will say, I'll rebuttal. I don't think McNabb ever had an MVP like season like Carson. Just putting that out there. But I will agree, we don't know how Carson would have performed in the Super Bowl, and then of course the rest of Carson's career. He just completely fell off due
Mm,
to injuries, locker room stuff, a combination of both. But I totally agree. But again, he was a part of the team. He was the quarterback for 80 85% of the season, 80%. Playoffs is
sure,
20, I guess you could say,
sure.
and the last couple games. But yeah,
Mm,
of course, Nick Foles is a legend in this city. He already had that statue made right away, which of course we weren't the biggest fan of when it
I
first came
was.
out. But now they can build one on every goddamn block if they want to in the city. Now, the only thing I want to push back on you is I know you always believed in Nick Foles, and I'll definitely give you 100% credit for that.
Sure.
But did you really? No one thought he could actually win the Super Bowl like before the playoffs started, like
I
against the
did.
Falcons. You thought he
I
could
did.
win the whole thing.
Yes, I absolutely did. And I'll explain why I thought so. So, a lot of people want to bring up his play in the ice cold games against the Cowboys, the Oakland Raiders at the time, and the Atlanta Falcons in the playoffs. Now, I don't think people understand this because a lot of people either haven't played the game of football in high school or lower levels, or they just want to bash for no reason just because they loved Carson Wentz so much. So when you're a quarterback playing the sport, when it is that cold, it is extremely tough to play at the level you're designed to play at, no matter what. Matt Ryan didn't play a good game in that Atlanta Falcons game. Derek Carr didn't play a good game in that Oakland Raiders game. Dak Prescott didn't play a good game in that Dallas Cowboys game. When it's freezing, you're not going to play well as an NFL quarterback. You're just not. And a lot of people can't grasp that because, number one, they have peanut brains. Number two, they're biased. And number three, they're trolls. So I always said that Nick Foles, if you put him in the right spot, you put him in the perfect weather, he will outduel any quarterback in any big moment at any time. And he did that during that season. Unfortunately, he had a couple of cold games to get through. He still won those games. Unfortunately, that last game of the regular season was a 6-0 defeat to the Dallas Cowboys. And fortunately for us, Nick Foles didn't get hurt. Unfortunately for us, Nick Foles didn't get hurt because remember he was like they brought him out. What did they bring him to the locker room the first quarter or whatever, and Sudfeld finished, and it was just a disaster. But after that,
they didn't have to win that game, so Sudfeld would have went in. But yeah.
But after that Falcons game, into the Vikings game, when the Vikings won off of a very emotional defeat, an upset against the Saints on that last second touchdown to Stephon Diggs. So going into that game, there was a lot to play for, a lot of emotion to play against, and we won 38-7. Rest is history. We went to the Super Bowl, smacked that ass, and won our first Super Bowl in franchise history.
I think you made a great point that I really didn't even think about until now. They played all dome quarterbacks or warm weather quarterbacks. Like the Vikings have a dome, Cowboys. Even though I'm thinking of 2019 with the Cowboys, but Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, the Falcons playing a dome, and then you said Derek Carr. Obviously, they were in Oakland then, so that was like a low key benefit to us. And yeah, we didn't play any, and honestly, there isn't even that many outdoor cold weather teams in the NFC, so that's going to play to our strengths again if Detroit or San Francisco come here this year. But obviously, that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But yeah, looking back again, it was a perfect storybook ending. It was lightning in a bottle. And looking back, it was such a happy time. It almost feels like, not that really happened, but it was such like a euphoric feeling. And, you really can't, things that are like that, like euphoric, you can't put into words. It was almost like an out of body experience. I remember, unfortunately, my family was going through some personal stuff at the time, but I remember just meeting you after the game and just honestly driving around on the highway in the city. And it just felt like walking on air. Like, anything. It was Christmas morning times 100,000,000, honestly.
Yeah, because well, the best part about that is I think the celebration was even better than it would have been. No, with Carson Wentz if he did win the Super Bowl, because a majority of Philadelphians honestly thought the season was over when he went down. They were like, "What the hell? We're never going to win the Super Bowl. This always happens to us." And then all of a sudden, Nick Foles gave us that second shot, and we got it done. So it was almost like it went from, yeah, we're not winning to, holy shit, we just won. So it's almost like that tease that we always have to deal with as Philadelphia sports fans became a reality that one moment. And, I'm a huge, I don't like when people destruct property or like kill flowers or plants or whatever. And there were a ton of plants and flowers ruined in the city.
Shit on the ground, right? Or
shit on the ground, or eat horse shit or like whatever. But like in that moment, I just didn't care. I was walking on Broad Street. I was walking towards City Hall. I saw these plants ruined, and I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. And I definitely want to experience that again. We almost did with Jalen Hurts. Didn't happen. But this season, I feel like we have a very good team. I don't see anyone in the NFC contending with us other than San Fran, and McCaffrey's already hurt. So you never really know. Yeah, he's dealing with like a strain, I think. But
one last thing I want to say about the Super Bowl, my Aunt Natasha's actually in the comments, and a funny story with her. I went to the parade with her and my cousin, and it was still cold. It was so cold that day.
Yep.
Unfortunately, my cousin, I don't even know, like his like throat closed up or something like that. He just had like trouble breathing. So that was unfortunate. But the parade, the city, it was so packed. Remember, we were at the art museum and we heard Kelsey's speech. I think that they were still there with me. I'm not sure.
I wasn't
But
there.
people were climbing on like the pond lake thing right there near the art museum. People were in trees.
Yep.
Just like a crazy memory that we'll never forget. And if we experience it again, I'm dead. Just we're not going to read that comment. Yeah, it's just you can't put it into words. So, but yeah, we're going to close the chapter on there again. Congrats to Nick Foles. Do you have any last thoughts or comments for Nick Foles?
No, the only thing I'll say is once again, thanks, Nick Foles. And honestly, you'll hold a special place in my heart in particular because that was the final chapter of being an Eagles fan from the time I was a kid, throughout my teenage years, throughout my 20s. I was 25 when they won, so I was halfway to 30. It was just a great chapter, great closure to the suckness I had to endure as an Eagles fan growing up. And I'll never feel more grateful in my life than that because, from here on out, it's all just a bonus. We love doing these shows. Everyone is a huge Eagles fan who tunes into these shows, other than the one Ravens fan that's turning in for tonight. But, it's
We've
one
got a
of
lot
those
of Giants
moments.
fans too.
Yeah, it's one of those moments I won't forget, and I can't thank him enough. I really can't. So congratulations once again. Week number 2, Monday Night Football. He will be retiring as a Philadelphia Eagle. So I can't wait for
Awesome.
that.
Awesome storybook ending. All
Yep.
right, moving on to present day. We do have a lot to cover in this show. And I'm going to say this is probably the most newsworthy week since the draft. That's what we've been waiting for. So that's pretty exciting. First
Mhm.
thing we want to start off with today is the breaking news. I believe it broke yesterday or Wednesday. ESPN put out a report that there was a current divide, which we kind of already knew between Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni. Now, this was a really detailed report. Unfortunately, I did not get to read it. I should have before the show.
Mhm.
But I did listen to a couple of people talk about it, and it really details I want to say power struggle, but just the difference in personalities between Hurts and Sirianni. And I mean, I watched some press conferences of training camp. The problem is to me, and this all goes back to January and about Nick Sirianni staying. We can break it down, but this is the Eagles' fault for not nipping this in the bud and shutting it down. If they kept Sirianni, which they did, they needed to have a big like kumbaya moment. Something again, I've always said it. Last year was terrible. It sucked, and it will not happen again. We're gonna do everything in our power to make sure. And they never said those words like directly to the
Mhm.
fan base. And there's also like I feel like a coach, and I think he said this before about Jalen. Nick Sirianni's like, "Oh, I love Jalen Hurts." Like he has not said that in a long time, and I know it's just like words, but these players are sensitive. Social media, everything's documented, so I don't know why. Even if it's not true, like the media team and the marketing or whatever, they should be telling them to say shit like that everything's amended. We worked out our differences. We're all disappointed about last year. I love my coach. I love my quarterback. And that was never said. Do you agree that something like that should have been done?
No, I don't agree with that. And the reason being is because if you force something and it's not something that they agree on, that they're actually going to work things out and that's actually real, I feel like it's better to not say anything than to say something. Because I'd
Okay, but
rather
now
there
you
not.
have this story planted here, and this is going to be
It
questions
doesn't
for
matter. Like
weeks.
there's always stories going to be planted about somebody to tear someone down.
Mm,
Always,
This,
no
this
matter
is kind
what.
of like a big deal though. The head coach and the quarterback, if they're not getting
I
along,
I saw Jalen Hurts ride on a golf cart with Big Dom and Nick Sirianni. I'm good. That's good with me, honestly. Like the fact that Jalen Hurts gave them both a ride, I'm good. He doesn't have to
so do
say
you think
anything. I'm good.
you think they did amend most things and this is like in the past or no?
Yeah, I do. I feel like this season is going to be big with the speed factor of Jalen Hurts. The fact that he has his legs back, he's going to bring back his game. He's going to perform at a high level again. And I think that's what it all comes down to. I think last year, the fact that Jalen Hurts was hurt, he was hurt, guys. Let's not fake pretend that he wasn't. He was hurt. He couldn't use his legs. The fact that he can use his legs now can bring him back to what he was in 2022, and let's get back to the Super Bowl. That's just how I
All
see
right,
it.
so it sounds like you are like ready to move on from this drama. You don't even want to
Correct.
acknowledge it.
100%.
Interesting, because I feel like that's not usually your take, and I feel like you're just
Mhm.
ready for this season and to like faithfully believe.
Listen, I'm done with the bullshit. I deal with enough politically. I deal with enough bullshit amongst other human beings on the daily. When it comes to sports, I'm just done with drama. I want to watch the games. I want to do the podcasts, and that's it. I'm so sick of and tired of like going into other people's business on a daily basis. I'm just sick of it. I just want to watch football. I want to watch these athletes do their job and hope for the best. That's all I care for.
I completely agree. Like I say, as long as they're not killing anyone, raping anyone, getting like drunk driving, I don't care what they do off the field.
Yep.
However, this does directly impact the team and the camaraderie and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it because now you have Kellen Moore and he's in charge of the offense completely. That's what I've been hearing more and more. Lurie basically told Sirianni hands off, which I think that probably could have been said because I do think Jeffery Lurie is upfront. He doesn't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
And why should he? He's the owner of the team. He's the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how this plays out. And I think you wanted Sirianni fired as well when I did, because again, if Kellen Moore gets a head coaching job next year, like, okay, now what? Like, you're going to bring in a new offensive mind or system every year, every other year. So something is going to meet the road there. This is just such a weird situation. Would you agree with that at
Well, I
least?
mean, again, you just nailed it because let's just say we do get back to the Super Bowl this year, win or lose, one or both of our coordinators are going to be gone. So, I mean, it's like the
Defense is
situation,
different from the offense, though. We could the defense, but Sirianni's an
but
offensive coach.
it's a circle and it's a pattern and it's a rhythm of never ending shit when it comes to our coordinators. They're always too good to just stay as coordinators. They always have to be a head coach the next year or the year after that. They're never staying. The quarterback's always hearing different voices. The defense is always hearing different voices. It's just always consistently in and out, in and out, in and out. It's
The
just
only
never structured.
only thing I can think of is if they were smart, they gave Kellen Moore a shit ton of money and said, you have to be here for 2 to 3 years, something like that.
Well, if
Now,
they did that,
I
if
don't
they
know.
did that, it's under the table.
Well, I don't know. You can't write that into a contract.
Not really, because everything that's in the contracts disclosed to the public. That's the way of being
Yeah, maybe it was
manipulative
like a
as a
verbal
team.
agreement, like you said, under the table. Because I
Right.
don't know, like, I mean, obviously he's going to take a head coaching job if he gets one. And of course, we're
Correct.
looking way into the future. This is if we're successful, which, we both think that they will be. But I don't see them being that. I mean, who knows? That would have been the smart thing to do. Like, I need you here for 2 years if I'm giving you I would have given him, I don't even know, 5 million a year, 8 million, whatever. Like, that's a lot of money for a coordinator, maybe not that much. Whatever. Make him one of the highest paying coordinators because you need at least 2 years of him. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 years of Gannon. So his first year was in 2021,
And
made the playoffs.
Shane Steichen, we had 2 years of.
Yeah, we had 2 years of them, and then they left. They both left, and we lost the Super Bowl. We didn't even win the Super Bowl. We lost the Super Bowl. So it's like win or lose. Like if you show signs of brilliance on either side of the ball, they're not going to be here. So it's like I just never liked that about the hires that Jeffery Lurie has made or the coaching staff has made because yes, the head coach is always going to be here, but he's the only one that's ever safe, it seems. Everyone else can get a hire like that. And I've
And
never liked that.
Andy Reid was good at that. Like, of course, he had coordinators that got jobs, but usually it was his position coaches. And it's just a weird reality. Again, the NFL is all about young, fast. They want young guys, to be head coaches now. It's not about working for years and years and years. It's if you're good now, produce. So it's like, do you want to find these old coordinators that like have been a head coach, don't want to be a head coach anymore? Like, I don't think Vic Fangio, I think he says he's going to retire here eventually.
Yeah, I agree
Which
with
I
that.
think he honestly might retire in like 2 years. So I wouldn't be surprised.
It's the same thing at that point.
Exactly.
It's the same
But
thing.
like, Reed had like Marty Morningweg. He became a head coach for 1 year, came back. Obviously, Jim Johnson did not want to be a head coach. They had Brad Childress for a long time.
Awful.
Like we said, back in the 2000s and previously, it took a long time. You really had to prove yourself through the ranks. You had to be a assistant, then a position coach, then a coordinator. Now it's like, all right, you could be a coordinator. Like you're like Kellen Moore, he retired. He was a quarterback's coach 1 year, coordinator the next, and you can literally become a head coach in like 3 years coaching in the NFL. Like it's crazy. So
Correct.
I think that's the main thing. But you're going to want to hire the young offensive mind or someone that no one knows about because you're going to win that way.
Yeah, and not only that, like if we do have a spectacular year this year, Kellen Moore is not going to be here for another year. If we have a spectacular year this year, he's gone because he's
Would you
only
make
36
Kellen Moore
years
the head
old.
coach? Would you make Kellen Moore the head coach?
If we get to the Super Bowl, there's no way in possible hell that that's happening. You would stick with Nick.
But what would you do?
I would stick with Sirianni because
and try and find, like, would you give Sirianni the offense back, or we're going to do the same thing again? Find someone.
I would do whatever. I would do whatever worked. I mean, obviously, if you get
they tried that last year with Brian Johnson. What happened?
Brian Johnson was awful. He was awful. The thing with Kellen Moore is I know they're going to be successful with him because he has the tools to work with. He has like 5 Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball. He doesn't have to do much. He has to call up maybe some dink and dunks at times, the tush push, runs with Saquon, a bomb downfield twice a game to A.J. Brown. It's simple stuff. It's not even hard stuff.
Yeah,
and the thing with Kellen Moore is he has a brain. He comes from Boise State. He was in a system as a quarterback. He went to Dallas, did well at Dallas.
Yeah, worked with Dak and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he's very talented. He has a brain.
That's why I kind of want to be the head coach. No lie.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it doesn't matter what you and I want; it's not going to happen because you're not going to replace a Super Bowl, get into there twice with a guy that is just a rotational.
Yeah. Okay,
guy.
What if they lose in the divisional round, but they have a top 5 offense?
I think you replace him. Yeah, I think you put Kellen Moore in there.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Not wishing that to happen, but again, I don't want this to be a never-ending process where our specialty offensive head coach needs like 95% help outside of the organization.
Well,
like,
if you want,
it's weird. It's really weird.
If you want Kellen Moore to be the head coach, you're wishing for a very good season, but not winning the Super Bowl, basically.
Now, can Nick Sirianni become like a John Harbaugh like type of like CEO head coach? Obviously, Harbaugh came from special teams, which, no offense, but I think any coach could coach special teams if you're an offensive or defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So can we hope that he kind of evolves into that?
I mean, he's not going to, but you could hope for whatever you want.
I
pray every night.
He's just a stooge. He's just a stooge.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Sirianni is what he is. I think he's a good leader. I feel like he hypes up the locker room. He's honestly one of us when it comes to being rowdy and an asshole. I love that.
Was he a good leader last year for the last 8 games?
I mean, I'm not going to say that. I think that the players didn't play well enough. I didn't even think Jalen Hurts was a good leader. I just think the team fell apart. And, unfortunately, that happens sometimes. But this year, I feel like, after the first 3 weeks, you're going to get a grasp of what this team is. And if we're 2-1, 3-0 team, we're ready to go. It's that simple.
Last thing about this, because I know you don't want to talk about the drama anymore, but the biggest thing that I heard from the article just talked about the different personality types. Again, Hurts being more of like a silent, inward leader, and Sirianni like being kind of like loudmouth, rah-rah, sometimes like an asshole and a dick opposite. Mm-hmm. So I can definitely see like some truth to that. Sirianni coming to Hurts and be like, dude, like, this is your team, like, take over, like, you gotta preach to these guys. And like Hurts whatever he was going through, or like, because I think that is him. He's just not Nick Sirianni's level. And maybe Hurts was like intimidated, or there was some weirdness going on there. So that I could see some truth to that. Now, last thing I do want to mention. So you don't believe that a coach and a quarterback should have a good relationship to win a Super Bowl?
No, because Bill Belichick and Tom Brady didn't have a good relationship
But there was such
as
a respect there. It was a huge respect for both of them between them. They
correct.
didn't like each other, but they respected each other.
Correct. But anytime a tandem gets to a Super Bowl within the first 2 years, it really doesn't matter.
But
That's
like,
just how
why
it
would
goes.
Hurts respect Sirianni? Because Hurts has said in interviews, he's like, we got new people in new roles and new positions, and like kind of like putting over Kellen Moore and saying, like, yeah, we're going to be better because Kellen Moore is in charge of the offense now.
Well, I mean, at that point, why would any athlete respect a head coach or any coach of that matter? I mean, they make much more than they do. It's like one of those things where, you put your ego aside, I guess, and you
You're
realize
right.
the
You're
grand scheme of
absolutely right.
everything, come together and win it as a team. You have to have that mindset. At that point, it has nothing to do with relationships as head coach. You have to play as a team and win as one to get the ultimate goal. And that's why the Kansas City Chiefs are so damn good at it, because they just don't care.
You're right. That was the whole thing with Hurts, which I don't have a problem with, but like maybe Sirianni coming to him and saying that, like, kind of like bruised his ego, or he like took it as that. He's like, no, like, I am the leader I'm supposed to be. I've always been a leader my whole life. So, like, why are you challenging my leadership qualities? Because it's different than what you think I should be doing, but that's what I've always done. So you're right. It's just a total ego alpha male thing, which I want my quarterback to be that way.
Mhm.
And like you said, Hurts is more valuable than Sirianni, 1,000%.
1,000%.
But like Sirianni, just to me right now, does not come off likable. I don't want to like hear anything that he says. When
Mhm.
I see him talk, I turn it right off. I'd rather watch any other person from the organization. I don't really want to feel that way about him. And in 22, I loved him, and we all did. But like somewhere along the way, I mean, you said he's like one of us, but like I just can't listen to the guy anymore. And I wish that wasn't the
Well,
case.
you don't like the whole spiel about putting seeds in a pot, putting water on it, and watching it grow into a flower?
I liked that in 22 because it
So
worked.
weird.
And then him just saying like these catchphrases and key words and repeating himself 1,000 times. Again, I know you don't agree with it, but I want him to say last year was horrible, unacceptable. We're moving on. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that never happens again. We have a great quarterback. We have a great team. That's all you have to say. And I've never heard him say that. Have you?
No, not once actually. Like
So,
I've honestly, in the 3 years that he's been here, I've never, four now, I haven't heard him say it once.
well, he
Yeah.
did call Hurts Michael Jordan. Remember that?
All right, that's funny.
So that was, and did he say that last year, I think, when he played the Bills, right? When they won
Yeah, I
in
mean,
overtime?
Michael Jordan never lost in the championship, but that's pretty funny.
Well, I think he meant like athletic ability. Obviously,
I
that's not
guess.
true. It's not true, but I mean, what bigger compliment can you get than that, right?
Yep.
All right. So again, the drama will unfold and unpack itself. I'm sure that this is not the end of it, especially when turmoil or controversy arises. But good teams get through that controversy. And we have to
Absolutely.
make a whole 180, 360 from last year when they absolutely failed. F minus zero, negative zero when controversy struck.
Correct.
All right, let's get to some positive things now. Let's get back to like the Nick Foles vibes.
I'll answer this question real quick. K&A Football asks thoughts on Saquon Barkley. So I said this a couple of weeks back on this show actually, and I believe Saquon has the potential to be the best running back in the league this year. Better than Christian McCaffrey, better than Derrick Henry, better than Brees Hall.
What's Christian McCaffrey's injury?
I think it's a leg strain or a hamstring tweak. I think something
Interesting.
like that. Yeah, but I think Saquon Barkley, even if CMC is completely healthy this year, I think Saquon Barkley has the tools to be the best running back in the league. Absolutely, behind his offensive line. Like I love Saquon Barkley. Absolutely love him. I hated watching his talents diminish on the Giants because they didn't use him correctly. They didn't have an offensive line for him. They didn't put talent around Daniel Jones for it to ease up on Saquon Barkley. It's just here he has everything. I cannot wait to watch this guy play in this offense, and God, it's gonna be fucking awesome. So I
I
can't wait.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a game changer, and it hasn't sunk in for me yet that he's even here and how much of an impact he's going to make. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have too high expectations, say number one running back in the league. I think he has the
Mm-hmm.
talent to do that, but I want a game changer at running back. I think that's going to be him. So I'm setting my expectations high, but like at like an Adrian Peterson season, I can't go that far, but anything's possible. And I think again, he's going to help us win games, goal line, 3rd and 1, whatever. Like you said, catching the ball out of the backfield, which we haven't seen here with the running back in a lot of years now
Mm-hmm.
consistently. So, it's really, really cool to have him. And it's really
Well,
cool that
also,
the Eagles invested the money in him as well.
I like the running back depth that we have. Actually, I like the fact that Kenneth Gainwell we can use on 3rd down if we need to. Will Shipley out of training camp it sounded like he's a diamond in the rough. Actually, the coaches absolutely love him, and if he could produce to this running back room, that's going to be a dynamic spot on this team where you don't necessarily have to have Jalen Hurts do all that much. So that's phenomenal in itself.
I want to mention one thing because I was thinking about it today. People that have the most approval on the offense, besides Cam Jurgens, whatever, like he's played, but Dallas Goedert, I think people are definitely down on him. I know me and you are. We've talked about him on this
Yeah, I'm not
show.
a fan. I'm not a fan.
But think back to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was like a bowling ball running through people. I remember the Houston Texans game on that Thursday
Mm-hmm.
night.
Yep.
Like he looked like a top 3 tight end. And then last year, like he's kind of like a footnote. He got hurt. I really don't even remember him making many, if any, of those types of plays. I really can't even think of a great play that he had.
Yeah.
So I think he's an X factor because I think he has to be good for this offense to be good because he was
Absolutely.
that good, and we utilize the tight end. Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck. We do like tight ends historically in this organization. I think he has a lot to prove. I don't know when his contract is exactly up. Also, Kenny Gainwell.
Next year.
I mean, I'm not re-signing Kenny Gainwell. I don't think that they will now that especially because they signed Saquon.
Yeah.
But remember, they had Kenny Gainwell listed as the starting running back week 1 against the Patriots, not DeAndre Swift.
He
So
was.
they like Kenny Gainwell, and that was just a weird, weird mistake. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Do you know why they
I
did
don't
that?
think
Because
he's
Howie drafted Kenny Gainwell and not, and
I
DeAndre Smith was a free agent.
I think you're being too harsh on Gainwell. I think he's a playmaker when he can be. When he has certain spots, when he finds a certain hole in the offensive line, Kenny Gainwell can make plays happen. I think this is a guy that a lot of people are being hard on just because we did have DeAndre Swift and we weren't utilizing him correctly. But Kenny Gainwell, I think, he's a decent NFL running back. And the
I
fact that
mean,
he's our backup, I like it.
yeah, he's a backup, but like, who is he better than of our recent running backs? Like, I would take Miles Sanders over him.
Boston Scott.
I mean, as an every down player, I think Boston Scott has made more memorable plays. Kenny was good in the Super Bowl run, and I
Yeah.
think he was good in I think he had a big game against the Giants. And yeah, he's reliable, but I mean, I don't know. I just think that there's like I'm just not a fan, and I'm not going to repay him. I don't know. I liked like Garrett Blunt. I
Oh,
liked
he's
Jay
great.
Ajayi. I
Yeah.
think all of those people just had more like oomph to
Mhm.
them. So I just think he's like kind of maybe just like boring the way he plays. I don't know, but
I think Kenneth Gainwell, now this is me off of years and years of looking at running backs in the National Football League. I think Kenneth Gainwell has the potential to be better than Miles Sanders. I think he has that potential.
when was he drafted, Kenny
He
Gainwell?
was drafted in the 5th round out of Memphis.
Like what year? I'm gonna look it
This
up.
was like 3 years ago,
Was it 2020 or 9?
2021, I believe.
So he is still a young player. But he has gotten opportunities, and like we said, he's delivered. I wouldn't say he's delivered, but like, oh my god, this guy's our starter. And again, I don't know why he was picked over DeAndre Swift. That was definitely a mistake, and they switched that real quick. But like they didn't like DeAndre Swift. They didn't use him like they
No,
could have. So I don't know
no, they
what
didn't.
happened there. He was from Philly. I don't know. Maybe he like was I don't know. Maybe he wasn't a good soldier. Maybe Kenny Gainwell is. I mean, I don't know what else it could have been. Like he was great. Like remember that Vikings game week 2 with DeAndre?
Yeah, but you're also saying week 2. That was really early in the season. I think historically they were scared of running him down to the ground as the running back number 1 and him not being ready for the playoffs. So I think that's why they used both of them.
Yeah, but
But
they
with
didn't even
say
re-sign him. They didn't even re-sign him. So why not run him into the ground?
they probably just didn't like him. Honestly,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
they
There was something that they didn't vibe
they
with.
honestly they honestly probably thought for years that they were gonna get Saquon Barkley when his deal was up.
You think this was planned?
I think so. Yeah, I think they just
So
put DeAndre Swift in there for a year.
was there like whatever that is like illegal treason no whatever like when you
Treason.
talk to the players before like and I think they investigated that right with James Franklin, right?
hmm
I
Yeah.
don't know like because why wouldn't the Giants re-sign him? The owner was so mad and upset. He was their best player. Now they literally have no one besides Daniel Jones and Dex on the
hmm
defensive side. I don't know. It's an interesting take,
I don't know,
but
man. Nabers looks pretty good.
who?
Malik Nabers, he's their wide receiver.
What, the rookie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna. Rookies are rookies until I see them on the field.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll be good. But like, again, they don't have no quarterback throwing on the ball. But
True. It's very true.
all right, so let's get into the preseason game. I mean, obviously, we're not going to talk about the game. They're playing the Ravens on the road tonight at 7:30. I think it's just on your local affiliate, like 6ABC, or I don't know what it's airing on.
Yeah.
Ravens, now, of course, not really relevant, but they had that long winning streak in the preseason, like 26 straight games or something like that they won. Obviously, doesn't matter who wins or loses in the preseason, like doesn't mean anything, like a lot of the other sports don't. Now the only interesting thing to talk about is the starters will be playing. It's on NBC Sports Plus. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Definitely gonna watch that a little bit. So the starters playing, we texted about this earlier in the week. Fake football tonight. Let's don't get hurt. That's exactly how we both feel.
hmm
Now, I don't understand is they literally don't want to practice with pads or hit really. That's like their mentality.
Right.
For how many years they're like, they sit people at whenever. At the end of the season, they don't like I don't know when the last time the starters played a full quarter in the preseason. Why are you changing that now?
I'll
Okay,
tell you
yeah, you had a
exactly.
bad year last year, but like
Uh-huh.
that's your like psychology and like your like process. So why are you changing it? Because
They
like explanation.
they they want to be ready to go for the Brazil game. They want their starters to get back into rhythm. And I feel like the only way you do that is by putting your players out there at a full game speed situation, get them ready, practice it in practice, and be ready to go September 6th in Brazil and just kick ass. I love it. And if players get hurt, they get hurt. That's the
Wait,
part of the
I no,
game.
that's not what you said before earlier this week. You like care most about injury, not players get hurt, players get hurt. Like what?
No, I do. Listen, my mindset has changed within the
You are
last
always
2 to 3 days. I'm changing because this is the way of my thinking nowadays. Listen, these players need to be ready to go for Brazil. They absolutely need to be ready, because I do not want to have a game where we're not prepared just because we're not ready for the speed of the game against a team in Green Bay and Jordan Love who looked damn good to finish the year last year. Now, Jordan Love is your conventional pocket passing quarterback. If we're not ready, we're gonna get shredded and we're gonna lose that game. I'm telling you, man. So my opinion
I
has
don't think we're gonna
changed,
get
and
shredded. I don't think we're gonna get
my
shredded.
opinion has changed, and I think it's a good idea they're playing the starters.
Now, would you agree like 2 series max?
I'll play the first quarter.
I would not. Now, I would play the defense because I think the defense needs like it's a whole new defense and all new, basically a lot of new players. I would not be playing Avonte Maddox for number one, seriously. And who else would I not be playing? I would not be playing Dallas Goedert a lot. Anyone that has any type of injury at all, any cramps, nothing like that, I would not play them. Anyone else? I mean, I probably wouldn't have Lane Johnson out there with his age long at all. Like he does not need to be out there. But the defense for sure. And all of the rookies, Quinyon Mitchell, I would have him like as the number 2 corner. I would have him like
Jackson.
starting.
Yep.
Yeah, Jackson Hunt, everybody, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, the whole fucking game. Like I think the defense, I could definitely see them playing for sure. But the offense, 2 series max. Like I don't know, like that's my opinion. Defense, yeah, maybe I would play them 2 quarters, maybe. Or the Ravens, like is Lamar Jackson playing at all?
No, actually, the Ravens fan that was in the comment section earlier said none of their starters are playing, and it looks like a hurricane might be hitting the area, so this game might not even get played. We'll see what happens.
Like now again, now that's fucking all right. So of course, typical Eagles fashion. Let's say that we go 3 and out, or we like literally kick a field goal against their second team with our starters. Like we're not gonna. There's gonna be a lot of whatever hoopla about that. That'll be the next story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this doesn't really matter, but it's like you don't want that to happen. Again, it doesn't matter when week 1 gets here, but yeah, that's just like a, it's a thing if it happens.
My biggest intrigue on this game. Now, I don't really like preseason games because they're boring, honestly. But
the first one too.
My biggest intrigue on this game in particular is seeing who comes out for that third series. Is it going to be Tanner McKee or is it going to be Kenny Pickett? So if it's Tanner McKee, they've already given up on Kenny Pickett as the backup, in my opinion.
Well, we haven't heard a thing about Kenny Pickett. I've heard about Tanner McKee. Have you heard a note about Kenny Pickett all training camp?
All I'm hearing, I'm not hearing much, but all I'm seeing, and my vibes being there, is that Tanner McKee's the better quarterback. That's just what I'm seeing.
Which is good for us because he's under contract and a trade piece. Of course, we would like a good backup, but hell, if you can get a 4th, 3rd round pick for him in a year or two, that's great value.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of in the comments section. T from the 203 is a little bit down on the Birds week 1. He said, "I've said it from the start. Packers in Brazil is a trap game." Now, the one thing I'll disagree.
Yeah, is he an Eagles fan? He's got a fucking Atlanta Braves as his pro pick on YouTube or
all right,
whatever.
So here's the thing I'll say to you, T from the 203. There's no such thing as a trap game in week 1. Every team is ready to go, and you're not going to be down. No one's going to be down for that game.
Unless you're playing like the Panthers, but even that, right?
Yeah, right. But he already has a Sharpie for week 1.
And so why? Why? Like we are a better team than the Packers. Yeah, they blew out the Cowboys. They had a great end of the season, but they're being overhyped a little bit. Again, we saw how bad they were parts of last season, most of the season, and I thought they were going to be better. I do love Matt LaFleur. Again, Jordan Davis just got paid, but that's a lot of pressure because he still doesn't have that much NFL experience, Jordan Davis. So I think they should be the ones more worried than us. They never played in Brazil before. It's a whole new environment for them. And we are the more experienced team and more, camaraderie with all of our players than Green Bay. Again, they're a young team. And they also were not in prime time a lot last year. Of course, the playoff game, and they looked great against San Francisco, but it's a new season. So, again, I have that as a win. I think it's going to be like a field goal game. But I think all of this, oh my God, automatic loss talk, I don't understand it. And I know you kind of feel the same way about the automatic loss, or no?
Yeah, no, I never liked the automatic loss. The only automatic loss that I have, being a hypocrite, is against Cincinnati this year. That's the only automatic loss I have.
So why are they going to lose in Brazil?
Why do I think they're going to lose in Brazil? Because it's one of those toss-up games. I feel like both teams, I'm not going to say they're even, but I don't know. It's one of those games where it's the first game of the season. You're trying new things out, and one of the plays might come back to bite you in the butt. I think
Also,
consistency is key.
like before that, obviously terrible streak last year, we
Yeah.
beat good teams. We beat the Bills, we beat the Chiefs, we beat the Dolphins, we beat the Cowboys. Again, all by the skin of our teeth. We lost to the Cardinals and Giants and the Seahawks with who the hell was their quarterback?
Mhm.
From the Broncos. What the hell was his name? Can't even remember. Wasn't even Geno
Drew
Smith.
Lock. Drew Lock.
Yeah, Drew Lock. Fucking terrible. So again, I think we also underestimated those teams when we played them, thinking we are going to show up and win. I think that could have contributed to it. So I think again, the Packers, all right, we know how they ended the season. They blew out our division rival. I think we'll be ready for that. And again, before that bad stretch, if we're going to get back to Eagles football, they win a lot, and they beat good teams. It's these weird, like they lost to the Jets, the Cardinals, like it's these ass teams that we just like don't show up basically. So I think we're going to win like 27-24, but that we'll get later on to that. Obviously as week 1 gets
Yeah,
closer.
and T from the 203 says travel, toss-up game. Jordan Love can torch this defense since Fangio plays a lot of zone, which isn't far off. I kind of agree with 203 here. But then again, listen, I'm going to give Fangio a little bit of slack with this new defense, and I'm going to let him go to work. But you're not wrong because Jordan Love looked great down the
I
home stretch of
agree.
last year.
Remember when Rodgers went down in 22 and he came in and like just threw a touchdown like right away?
Destroyed us. Yeah, I mean Jordan Love. I don't know where they find these. They're so lucky with getting franchise quarterbacks. It makes me sick, honestly.
Yeah, and it's the Packers again. They're this like the smallest team. They don't even have an owner. It's the shareholders. And
Yep.
it's I guess there's nothing else to do in Wisconsin besides or Green Bay besides study quarterbacks. I guess
Well,
that's what it is, right?
I guess eat cheese too, something like that.
Yeah, and
But
shit out the cheese and fucking, studying quarterbacks every second.
yeah. Jessica Holland on Facebook says, I do have some tickets to the game, but my daughter is sick in the hospital. I'm sorry to hear that. So we can't make it. If you want them, send me a message. Thank you so much,
Oh
Jessica. I
my
really
goodness,
appreciate
that's
it.
so sweet. Unfortunately I have to work, but like that would have been cool to go spur of the moment.
Yeah, that would have been great. But thank
Would
you
have
so
gone
much, and
for it.
hopefully your daughter gets well soon.
Yeah,
Really appreciate that.
well wishes for sure. Hope you get to watch the game with her if she's feeling a little bit better later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, I'm having the defense play a lot. Also, I think people are underrating how much better our secondary is going to be this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just used to us because we got completely torched last year. We couldn't tackle. Again, I think so much pressure was on Darius Slay because he was like our only really good player. We had Reed Blankenship starting all last year. Now I think he's still going to be. Is he still starting? I don't know.
Yep.
He is. Again, I think there was so much pressure on those two because of how bad Bradbury played. Avante Maddox went down. They brought in Bradley Roby, who was a bust. They traded for that Tennessee Titans safety. What the hell was his? The Kevin
Kevin
Byard.
Bird. Oh my
Yeah,
God, he sucked.
that did not work out. He had one interception and that's it. But like it fell right into his lap. So I think they felt the pressure, but now they're actually going to have real talent. Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon Mitchell, CJ Gardner Johnson. Like this is going to be again, even if they're just an average secondary. I mean, we were like 32, 31. Like it was the pits. So I don't think we're going to get shredded by Jordan Love per se.
Depends how our pressure gets there. We're missing Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, but we had a lot of coverage sacks in 22 as well. Like the secondary is good.
I know, but our pressure is always our main factor to our defense. We're going to see week 1, week 2, week 3, how this pressure goes up front. If we're
We
dominant, we're going
talked
to go back to
about
the
this
Super Bowl.
though.
But
We're good when we have a good secondary. That's when the defense is good.
yeah,
2017, 2022, 2018. Whatever. We're 9-7, but we went on that little bit of a run. So again, I have faith in this secondary, and I think the secondary is going to be better than the defensive line at getting sacks. Now, if they can stop the run, I will take that all day because that's huge. Again, I still have nightmares of James Conner running all over this defense. I told you that was like one of my worst Eagles memories games ever was that Cardinals game. I need to beat the Cardinals like 40-3 to get over that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have faith in the secondary. So, all right, so what do you want to see from tonight? Like your number one thing that you just want to see or you're interested in?
Well, the number one thing I'm interested in, if the starters do actually play and if they get the game in and there's no hurricane tonight, the one thing I want to see is how efficient,
Tornado warning where I am.
right?
I
How
think it's all of
efficient.
New Jersey is the tornado warning actually right now.
Yep. I want to see how efficient Cam Jurgens is with Jalen Hurts. That's what I really want to
That's
see.
a great point. That's good to get live reps for them.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
honestly why they're playing them because they want them to get acclimated in the
Now,
game speed.
I wouldn't play Saquon Barkley.
No, I wouldn't either. I agree with that.
Finally, we agree on something on this show.
Yeah, there's no need. There's no need to. Saquon Barkley's a natural. He's played in the league for what 6 years now. He's playing in the best offense he's ever played in. I mean, there's no
Again,
reason to play him.
coming off an injury. Like
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
no
want
reason
any
to
of these
play him.
people that have any type of injury history or again like sore cramps. Like they don't need to be out there. So like I would say no Lane Johnson, no Saquon, no Avonte Maddox, limited Lane Johnson. I wouldn't even play Lane.
All right, so I'm gonna disagree with that. Anytime Jalen Hurts is under center, you have to put your starters out there on the offensive line. You have to.
To protect him.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, like you said, 2 to 3 series tops, then get him out of there, and then wait for the season. But
How long should the defense play?
I think the defense should play at least a half. In my
Me
honest
too.
opinion.
I think they'll end up
Yeah.
playing a quarter, but
Yeah.
so it's interesting take how they're going to play the starters again. You think it's a combination of how last year ended and like the Brazil factor. So you're saying like if they played at home, they wouldn't be playing the starters or no?
No, I think they'd be playing the starters regardless. Last year, I think it blew up in their face a little bit, and they realized that with the slow starting, they want them to get acclimated and they want them to get ready with the rhythm. So I feel this is a good thing by Nick Sirianni. It could blow up in their face, hopefully not, but we'll just see what happens.
Again, I don't agree because they didn't play the starters in 22 and they went to the Super Bowl. So like,
No, they did.
Get it.
They did. They played them.
Starters.
Yeah, I'll go back to a big moment in that preseason, actually. I was there with my boy Danny. It was 2022. We were playing the Jets, and Jalen Hurts was running to the sideline, and one of the players on the Jets hit Jalen Hurts out of bounds late. And Nick Sirianni was basically to Mohamed Salah. He was like, or whatever. Wait, what's his name? No, Mohamed Salah's a soccer player. Salah.
Robert
Salah. He was basically saying, "Yo, what the fuck was that?" And that's what started the chain reaction to our team being so good. So they did play.
I remember that a little bit. Now, I think you're giving a lot of credit that was the catalyst for the team. I mean, it's great to see that. And again, people you like Nick Sirianni from that moment. Like again, that could have started again, me too. Like some fan popularity or whatever. Of course, like he needs to get that back. And I think we should end. We're going to end with that and one other thing. Like, again, I don't know. Again, I think I want to like my head coach. I think the quarterback and head coach need to be on the same page and honestly like each other. Again, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady is the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, how can Nick Sirianni, again, he's a stooge. Maybe it doesn't matter. But how can he just, like, I guess if he just wins, then the fans will, like, kind of be back and he'll be more likable, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, winning cures everything. You know, it's the most cliche saying in the book. You know, I mean, it just cures everything. When you're winning, everyone's happy. You know, you have bad work weeks. You have all this stress. If you're winning, you don't have any stress when it comes to your favorite sports team. So obviously, people would love him. It's just like Bryce Harper when he's losing at the plate with the Phillies, and people are talking shit about him. You know, and he's a good player.
Now, I will push back to that because this is I agree. But this is a little far-fetched, but like, could you see a Donovan McNabb TO situation with Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore if Kellen Moore gets all the credit and everyone's saying, wow, he's a genius and that's all we're talking about, and the media just asks Nick about Kellen Moore the entire post-game? Like, I think that's natural to kind of be a little jealous or like uncomfortable, no?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I mean, it's not his call. You know, if the fans are seeing something out of Kellen Moore that they didn't see out of Brian Johnson last year. Obviously, Kellen Moore is going to get credit because why wouldn't have worked with Brian Johnson last year with Nick Sirianni being the head coach? So obviously Kellen Moore being there would be a spotlight because things are working under him when it didn't work under
Of
Brian Johnson.
course.
Yeah.
Now, obviously players are different than coaches. Players definitely, I would say, bigger egos than coaches. Besides, like Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells, Bill Walsh, whatever. And again, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm getting paid how many million a year, so I'm going to take the money. Now I know he cares and he's emotional, and when he walks into Wawa, who the hell knows what people are saying or all that type of bullshit. But of course, I'm taking the money and I'll do whatever you want me to do.
I mean, I'm sure there's been people that have been offering like $5 shorties to him. I mean, that happens.
Yeah, they're probably a nice person, but again, if it was me, I'm a competitive person at work. I want to be the best that I can. I want to get recognition if I do well. Who doesn't? And again, I think Kellen Moore is going to get a lot of the recognition unless there's a Sirianni moment with a challenge or a timeout or, like you said, the late hit or something, or he just fucking looks like a leader and professional. But if it's just Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni, still that immature whatever personality head coach. I mean, like you said, you would agree could jealousy could somewhat form there.
It could.
So we'll see. Yeah. Again, I know you don't want to deal with the drama, but we're in it, and I don't think it's going away because of how we're constructed right now.
Correct. Again, you nailed it.
Winning cures everything. It really does. But
absolutely. With that said, guys, I do have to head down to Atlantic City. I have to miss this hurricane if there is one, or else I'm dead. Let's be honest. I'll just be caught in it. I'll drown. So I don't want to do that. But thank you guys for tuning into another edition of Fly Like an Eagles podcast. Hopefully no one gets hurt tonight. Starters are playing the first quarter if this game does hold up. And thank you for tuning in for this hour-long edition. And let's go Birds. Let's start the preseason with a win and get the fuck out of there.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't care if we win or lose, but football is back. It's going to be good to see just it being on our TV with the Eagles. Again, no injuries. Go Birds, and just, enjoy the game for what it is tonight. Let's hope we see a little bit of magic with the starters and then get in and get out. But we will be back again next Friday for more Birds talk, a recap, and I'm sure more news and training camp will be out. It's an exciting time as we count down to week 1 in Brazil against the Packers.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you guys next Friday. Always go Birds, and have a great and safe weekend.
Go Birds. Have a great weekend, everybody.